Welcome to, in my opinion, 4 Aegis of Earth, Protonovus Assault. The Earth is in bad shape after an event called the Silent Apocalypse that not only messed up the atmosphere, it also caused a lot of deaths to both humans and wildlife. Ever since that event, humans have been kept alive by mining a mineral called Ultiite, and even started building cities on top of the rich deposits of it. This, however, spawned these giant creatures known as Protonovus, which started to attack the cities to take away the Ultiite. It's decades later and the human race are still at war with the Protonovus. You are the new commander of the city, Kimberly, a relatively peaceful and quiet place, but it's also kind of looked down as low end. Your job is to protect the city and work together with your ever-expanding crew to save lives and show your worth. The main plot itself is really nothing special. It's just, oh man, we are getting attacked, or oh man, other cities are getting attacked and we gotta help them and upgrade our weapons. There is a little something near the end, but at that point you're like, okay, whatever. Though what makes you want to stick around for the single player to the end are the characters themselves. Their personalities are pretty entertaining and can be downright goofy as well. There are some that are gun nuts waiting to see some action, cowards trying to act brave, scientists that get bored easily, an operator that is constantly trying to find that special someone, and more. It's just enjoyable to see these likable characters react off each other in the many dialogue scenes.
Nope. Hey now. Okay.
You'll be defending your citizens in what is essentially a tower defense game, with your goal being to last till your strike progression reaches 100% by killing the enemy. You start off with some spots taken by certain weaponry, but you do have some empty ground available to build what you want. At a certain point in the game, you can fix up the uninhabitable spots in your city, giving you more room to build. Some of the weapons you'll be getting are missiles, cannons, Gatling guns, lasers, and more. You can even turn your command center into a giant weapon named the USW after filling up its gauge you see on the lower right corner. This fills up by just waiting or killing enemies or putting up a certain barrier that sucks up attacks, converting it into energy, allowing you to use stuff like a giant beam cannon or maybe a giant machine gun. There are also residence buildings that of course contain the people you're trying to keep alive, so be sure to keep an eye on that. Where this game introduces its twist is when the attacks happen. There are 4 rings in your defense and you can control the spin movement of each one during battle. Also, if you align the same type of weaponry together, they will combine to a more powerful, longer reaching version of said weapon, taking out the enemies much faster. However, there are some weapons that can't combine. Spinning around also helps since enemies come from all sides, even spawning pretty close to your base at a fraction of a second. Though the game is fair as it lets you know when and where the enemy is approaching from. They even show your overall attack range as by the way of red lines, letting you know your gun isn't attacking because it's busted, but because it's out of range. If the guns and residence buildings positions are not to your liking, you can always move them around as much as you like before you start a battle. While there isn't a great deal amount of enemy types, they do change it up by making it a bit more challenging, such as turning them into giants or even adding green types that must be killed all at once. I was actually surprised how much I enjoyed the core gameplay, as I'm not a fan of tower defense games at all. I just find them kind of dull. This one just gels with me more because it keeps you on your feet with the constant attacks, and the addition of being able to spin your city keeps your mind and hands busy. I also like that your teammates are talking through the heat of battle, making you sucked into the fight more. What's pretty helpful as well is if you feel like the enemies start to get a bit tougher as you move along the story mode, or maybe they're not tough enough for you, there is an option to change up the difficulty. What's great about this is the game does not penalize you for doing so, as the only thing that changes is how much damage the enemy can deal and take, and the charge up speed of your USW. The rewards you get from battle stay the same no matter what difficulty you're on. Now you may be asking yourself, how do I get all these shiny new toys to defend my city? That's where the research and development part comes along. You may have noticed as you're killing all these monsters, pretty colored crystals pop up from their dead bodies. These will be needed to get brand new equipment and upgraded forms of current weaponry. Getting the right color isn't all too hard since as you play the game, more cities open up to protect, and each of these cities give you certain colors. The other necessity of R&D is cold hard cash, which is gotten from the city's taxes. This is why those citizens' lives are so important, since the better you do in battle and keep them safe, the higher the happiness meter will go up, which spreads the word that you're awesome. And after each battle, a certain amount of people will want to join your city, which means more taxes to collect. You can also raise happiness by building pretty much anything and holding special events that can be activated in places like parks. The amount of people also affect the level of your city. Yep, not only do you level up, but your city as well, and both levels are very important since you unlock more R&D equipment for it. However, there's one difference since while you're over a level, which counts how you took down enemies, be it regular or combined weapons, nabs you equipment that can be used in a city, the city levels do not carry over. and you will have to repurchase the upgrades, which are things like more health for your command center, attack power of the USW, and the different types of USWs you can unlock.
City's level just increased. That's a direct result of all our hard work, I'm sure.
As I mentioned before, there is a rest period after each battle. This is when you can collect taxes and allow people to live in the city. You can also fortify pretty much everything, allowing your weapons to hit harder and take more damage. You can even beef up your residence buildings so you can hold more people, since you can run out of space. What's neat is once you get a better version of a weapon, you don't have to demolish it to build an upgraded version. You can just pay to upgrade it and get a little bit of a discount at the same time. There are also temporary structures you can build around you, like barriers or little tanks that can drive around your city, attacking anything that comes close. Though there's a reason why they are called temporary, since they can't be fortified, and once it's destroyed during battle, it doesn't come back like the other weaponry. Yeah, your weapons just magically come back, which I don't mind at all, as it makes losing one of these units less stressful when it comes to cost. The game does allow you to demolish a temporary unit if you can see it being destroyed the next round. This not only lets you make better defenses, you also get a little cash for it as well. It's not the same amount it costs to build, but it's better than zero. Just like the R&D, all this building, fortifying, and upgrading comes at a cost. You're going to need more than some cash and crystals. There's also something called Illuminite. This is attained by sacrificing some crystals, and each crystal type gives a certain amount. So by near end of the game, you should have a healthy amount. The one last thing that matters when it comes to building is how much electricity you have, as every single piece of equipment, temporary or not, takes some up. You can see how much you got by looking on the upper right corner, and the game's characters will be sure to let you know as well. But fear not, as these can get fortified as well, upping the juice it can take, and you even get an upgraded version as well when your level gets much higher. Be sure to collect taxes and let people in the city before the next battle, as it will disappear if you don't. It's kind of a dumb and random thing, but not annoying, as you need to take a few steps before starting the battle. Now, after all that prep, there are two different types of missions you can do. There's the regular one where you have an option of 3 different fights with different levels to them. The highest of course being tougher, but the reward is to get more XP from it. Then you have your order missions, which are kind of the same. The only difference is they can be way harder, and they show you what little extra rewards you'll be getting, such as way more money, some extra crystals, battle items, and modifier coins. All the missions also let you know what type of enemies will be popping up in that specific mission. You're probably wondering what are battle items and modifiers. Well, modifier coins can be used to add an extra floor of housing for residents to any piece of equipment, making it skyscraper-like. What's great is even if that piece of equipment gets destroyed, it doesn't count as civilian casualties, so it won't affect overall happiness as much. Now, the battle items are, well, items that can be activated while in battle or before. These have effects like more experience points, more crystals dropped, higher defense for your city, and more.
Is this what you want to use? This is where the real...
As I mentioned before, during combat, your teammates will hype you up, but at the same time warn you. However, they're not here for pure lip service, as they serve a much greater purpose. While playing through the game, your operator list will go into 18, with each having their own special skill or skills. Some of these skills are activated in battle or out of battle. For example, you have skills that can help your weapons shoot faster, make one of the 4 areas more stronger, make crystal drops more frequent, cut the cost when building, raise your tax income, and much more. Now, all these sound like great skills, but you're probably wondering, how do I trigger them? Well, you see, they're actually pretty random. Though the higher the focus and level the operator has, the more of a chance it will happen. As you go through the rewards menu when you're finished with defending your city, you can see how each of the current operators you have equipped are coming along. And you can even choose to give a little XP boost to any of the operators as sort of a pat on the back. This also replenishes some of their energy, which goes down after each fight, and if it hits 0, all your focus goes bye-bye. The other 2 ways to replenish energy is to tag them out for another character for a while, or use an item to wake them up. Don't forget, you only get experience for the operators you have out. The operator menu has one more final use, which is to get to know our cast of characters a little more. Each of our teammates get a little description that adds a little more to their character's personality, and is a nice touch if you ask me. Each of them also has a personalized voice quote.
City power operations is my game. You always know who I am, thanks to my trademark homemade goggles. These things are stuffed with all the latest technology, you know. And I made them myself. I get a kick out of throwing stuff like this together. So, yeah, what was I saying? Right, the goggles. When you put them on, you can actually see through people's clothes. What do you think? Want to try wearing these goggles?
There are boss battles in this game, and they can be pretty enjoyable and intense. Each city has what's called an alt density, and when it reaches 800, there's a good chance a big super Godzilla sized boss will pop up after you're done defending the city. The alarm goes nuts and boom, there it is. There are 6 different types in total, and if you're not decked out right, they can be a problem. Though you get a sense of fuck yeah when you take one down. Your reward for doing so is one of the rare crystals that can only be picked up here or as a reward for an operation, which are pretty necessary when you want the much better equipment. There is one last thing I need to touch upon, and this may drive those who are interested away. There is a status menu that gives out pretty useful information like the enemy types, background on the world, tips for the gameplay, and more. It also lets you know what you need to do to progress the story mode, which is usually things like use a certain operator, kill a certain enemy X amount of times, raise happiness a certain amount, and etc. There is one point around the 18th chapter where I had to level up 7 times to progress through the game. And let me tell you, this was one slow ass grind. I built up my grind tolerance thanks to the many JRPGs I played, but even this felt excessive, and it started to kill my fun. Again, I was able to bear it, and thankfully it was the only moment like this throughout the whole entire game. This is just a warning to everyone who might be turned off by this. Though not to end on a downer note, I do like that the game does fill you in on your stats and what your current mission is when you turn it back on. They actually have one of the many characters say what's up and such.
Of all our operators is as shown. Please take a look at the data carefully. And I would advise checking out the general state of the city as well.
Let's not beat around the bush here. This game is not super detailed or amazing looking. It came out for the PS3, PS Vita, and the PS4, and this is the PS4 version you're looking at. I still wouldn't call it ugly though, just meh, as all the city areas are kind of dull with just color changes. Heck, I think the last city area you get is probably the most visually different. It does make it up with other parts like our character designs, as even with each of them wearing the set uniform, they look visually distinct to stand out from one another, and how they deck themselves out help add to their already colorful personality. It also helps they're nicely drawn and colorful as well. There is voice acting in pretty much everything you do, like combat, using items, luring off people in the city, building stuff, and etc. It makes it task to just building not a complete mute fest, and makes you feel like you're part of the crew. There is a lot of reused lines, but sometimes they throw out different dialogue, such as some characters having at least 2 or 3 different lines when citizens are docking.
This is a public announcement.
I love how many people are wanting to put their lives in our hands. We're not gonna let them down, right, Commander?
However, there are no voice lines for the cutscenes in the game, as it's just a lot of short sound bits like, oh, wait a minute, what, blah, blah, and you get the picture. This does kind of stink, but I'm happy it wasn't like this for everything else you did, and it also helps the English voice work is rather good. Just a little advice, lower the music in the settings menu, since if it's left on the default level, the characters will get drowned out. Also, you can rewatch any of the cutscenes if you want to, and lastly, there's no Japanese voice work. I ran into no technical issues in the game as everything ran nice and smooth. The camera itself is also very versatile, letting you zoom in and out quite a bit, even letting you get an overhead view when your city starts to get a bit crowded. Again, I'm surprised I enjoyed it as much as I did, not being a big fan of tower defense games. The core gameplay was just fun, and the entertaining character interactions made playing the story mode enjoyable even when the main story itself was rather meh. Also, let's not forget the game is pretty forgiving when it comes down to difficulty, so the only real barrier for completing the story is that heavy grind spot I mentioned. I probably spent somewhere between 20 to 30 hours finishing the game, and there's no real replay value. The game does let you keep playing after the story if you want to clean up some trophies, but that's all there really is to do. I say if you're interested, or maybe not interested when it comes to tower defense games, that you should give this one a spin. Who knows, you might end up having a good old time. So come join the crew to help defend the city by attacking with the city. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on this game, and for a gamer's sake, keep gaming.